Hello, everyone, and welcome back to It All Starts With a Wish podcast. My name is Rachel.
And I'm Mark.
So, big news.
Big news.
Ginormous. People are very excited.
Yeah.
Maybe some mixed opinions. But Tiana's Bayou officially has people writing on it.
It does.
They have the cast member.
Not officially open.
No.
But
just people writing it. I think it's cast member previews. They had a media day. And then I think it's annual pass holders. And then it'll be everybody else.
Indeed.
Yeah. Mixed reviews, though.
I've watched it. I'm not one for spoilers. I don't watch things. I like to watch it first. And then I just
feel like you don't get a good... you don't get a good take on just a camera sometimes, though.
No, it's not the full thing. But I think it's cool to see it and...
You just can't make your full opinion on it yet.
No, you can't.
Not yet.
Well, some people think you can.
Well, yeah.
Don't get me fired up here.
Okay, sorry.
Some of these people online being like, this is ridiculous. This is awful.
The only thing that I can see...
You know what? Keep your opinions to yourselves.
I just feel like there is a lot of blank space. There's a lot of just black, nothingness. And I really thought it was going to be the movie. I wish it was just, the story of the movie and not, a new thing.
It's later.
No, I don't... See, I didn't want that. I wanted, the laughing place to be, Dr. Facilier and, all of that stuff.
No,
and then
that's not the idea behind it.
Well, I thought I had a better idea.
She's going into the bayou to find her special whatever she needs to get. And...
She already had one at the end of the movie. A restaurant?
No, she has her restaurant.
I didn't watch it, unlike some people.
Now she is, you could have read it because they already gave the descriptions. Basically, she's going into the bayou because she's trying to get a particular, I don't know if it's a mushroom or something, some kind of thing that grows in the bayou that she needs for her special meal that she's making, is the whole gist of it. So you go into the bayou with her, you get it, and then you go back, and then you're at her restaurant. And it's amazing.
I don't know if I like that storyline.
Well, you know what?
I'll write it. I'll see. Maybe I will like it.
Yeah, you haven't watched it.
No,
I think it looks very cool from everything I've seen.
Well, I've seen the animatronics.
Listen, people, Splash Mountain was my favorite ride in all of Walt Disney World. Okay, it was. Objectively. Loved it. It was my favorite. But you cannot look at the animatronics and what they have done with this ride and tell me that it's not better now than what it was before. Listen, I get it. The nostalgia, everything about it. It was my favorite ride. I am saying this, and it was my favorite ride. And I was very upset when they got rid of it. But you know what? When you look at the animatronics and the technology and what they have done to it, I think that they have done the ride justice. I think that they have. I haven't rode it in person, so I'll hold my final opinions until I actually ride it in person. But all these people who just like to complain about stuff,
well, yeah, I mean, you're going to have the people who just
all these people behind the keyboards who watch a little video and they're like, "This is awful. This stinks." Blah 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 blah, and they just type away. You know what? Take your miserableness.
Well, guess what? Some people have a right to not like it, though. So you cannot like it. That's okay.
Take your misery and go somewhere else with it. That's all I'm saying. Other cool things happening in Disney World. The drone show. Yes. Speaking of things that are really cool.
Yes.
There is now a new drone show at Disney Springs.
Yes.
And it is incredible.
Very cool. It is amazing to think that there's just so many drones up there all moving in the right, all programmed to do that. It's crazy.
It is. It really is. I was waiting for this to come to Disney World.
It makes very detailed things.
It does.
It's very detailed pictures. It's not just
I can't wait to see it in person. Because again, video I don't think really does
in France,
justice,
didn't it?
But... Yeah, part of the fireworks show that they have in Disneyland Paris is that. And once I saw that, I'm like, oh, that's got to be coming to Disney World.
Yeah, really cool.
And there were some hints with permitting stuff that it was coming and all that kind of stuff. But
you know what I wish would come back?
It is cool to see. What?
The electrical light parade.
Yes. I don't know that I need the electrical light parade back, but I need a nighttime parade at Magic Kingdom.
Yeah, that's not a specialty one only at the parties.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I need a regular nighttime parade at Magic Kingdom. It's been far too long that we have been done the injustice of not having one of those.
I just never usually see the parades during the day, so it would be nice to have one
No, and it's
at
different.
night.
I don't care. Like, during the day, that's a nice parade, the Festival of Fantasy.
Yeah.
It's not a
No,
bad
I do like
parade.
that
Like,
one.
I like it. It's nice. It's cool with Dragon Lady there. What's her name?
Maleficent?
There you go. I couldn't think of her name. But at the same time, a nighttime parade in Magic Kingdom is just a different level. It is.
Yeah.
And you cannot tell me that it doesn't hit differently when it's at night. And we
They need to bring that
deserve better. This I will complain about.
We
This
deserve a nighttime parade.
This I will join people on the complaining
That's
parade
really the only thing I have to complain about, really.
that
I wish would come back.
we
Something
deserve.
of that type.
We deserve.
Okay.
It's a God-given right.
Oh, okay.
No. But we do need a new nighttime parade at Magic Kingdom. So Walt Disney World Company, Bob Iger, all of you up and ups in the Disney Company, if you're listening to this, which I know you're not.
You never know.
Mark says we need a nighttime parade, so please give me one of those. I think we also need a joke, because it is tradition, and I got very upset about the Tiana's Bayou Adventure, and...
Okay. What's your joke?
So the joke this week is this. That was my joke. No, I'm just joking. What happens when the monkey scores the game-winning goal?
I don't know.
The crowd goes bananas.
That's so dumb. That was terrible.
You weren't expecting that joke, were you?
No, I wasn't.
Well, we weren't expecting some things on our last Disney vacation either.
True.
And that, I think, is the topic of today's podcast episode, is it not?
Yes, it is. Expect the unexpected.
Yes.
But...
Isn't that rule number one in everything in life?
You try. But I think there was a few things on this last trip that I wasn't expecting to either be harder than it was, or I don't want to say challenging, because it was fine, but just some things popped up that I wasn't expecting to, or it was a little harder to plan for, or that kind of thing.
Murphy's Law. What
Yeah.
can go wrong will go wrong. No.
Well, yeah.
Not really. Not much went actually wrong.
No, just little things,
Well, and I think some of these surprises were pleasant surprises, too. It's not all bad. But I think the idea here is that even if you're like us and you think you know everything that there is to know about Disney, and you have a podcast where you tell people about what they should do on their vacations... and, you're a Disney vacation planner, so it's kind of like your expertise or whatever, things don't always go according to plan.
Yeah, no.
And that's okay.
The key is to be flexible.
And that is acceptable.
Yeah.
And I think that is almost always true when traveling with families, specifically younger people in your parties.
Yeah, no, definitely.
So,
I think one of the biggest things that I can think of was navigating the nap situation for our son.
Well, so to be clear, too, we went with a 10-month-old, 11-month-old. 11. He was 11 months.
He's 11 months old.
We went with our 11-month-old son. You can go back and listen to our earlier episodes where we recapped the whole trip. We did it in 2 parts, went through the whole trip, what we did, what we didn't do, all that kind of stuff. So you can go back and listen to that. But if you did not listen to those and you're listening to this episode, basically we went for 10 days to Walt Disney World in Orlando, Florida. We stayed at 2 different hotels on that trip. We stayed at the Animal Kingdom Lodge for a few nights, and then we went over to the beach club for the main part of our trip. We were joined by my parents, and your parents joined us about a little, almost halfway through, a little bit before halfway through the trip.
A little, like 3/4.
And your sister. So it was not a huge traveling party, but there were 8 of us. Mm-hmm. So it was a decent-sized traveling party. So it required a little bit of logistical things and figuring everything out. But, not a totally unmanageable trip either.
Yeah.
But we were traveling with not even a toddler, technically really still an infant at that point, because he was under the age of 1.
Yeah. So, for me, it's not that he was a bad napper. He did absolutely great. I guess it just being out of routine and like actually having to think of, oh, he is going to need a nap. Or he's going to fall asleep at weird times now because like schedule is all messed up and all that stuff. I mean, he literally was asleep on me during the safari.
At first.
Yes, at first. He did wake up because it is quite a bumpy ride. So I guess I just kind of expected it to be more of like a midday type thing, but it would be now that he is closer to 2, more of that midday nap thing. So I guess I just wasn't really thinking, oh, like, you know, a nice longer nap middle of the day, that kind of thing. When we're all back at the hotel, it was sleeping throughout the day, you know, probably at least 2 of them. And sometimes we were up really early. So by 9 o'clock, he was ready for a nap and he was sleeping in the stroller.
You're taking kids who at that age are very routine.
Yeah.
And are very used to a certain way of doing things and have experienced this their entire known lives at that point. And you're taking them and you're putting them into a totally new climate, a totally new context, totally different situation with hotels and beds and living spaces and all of that. So it is to be expected that, you know, he's not going to sleep. Your child will not sleep as well.
Right.
While they're there. Or their sleeping patterns may change and evolve. And not that we weren't expecting that to happen, but
I just didn't think it was going to be as, not hard, but almost, and it sounds awful to say as a parent, but like inconvenient.
yeah, he wanted to sleep
sleeping
at times that
really, really bad times.
if you're not used to traveling with a kid, right, that
Yeah.
could be conceived as inconvenient times. You know,
Yeah.
you're waiting in line to go on to a ride, or you have a lightning lane for something, or you're going to a restaurant and all of a sudden an 11-month-old decides that it's time to sleep. And he falls asleep in the stroller, and then you have to try to navigate that with your plans.
Yeah,
so it
and
does...
I think that was the part that I wasn't expecting to be as hard as it was, and it was fine. We were flexible. You did great. You know, we were happy. You know, it didn't bring the trip down in any way. It was just having to more be on your toes. That, you know, being new parents and stuff, I wasn't used to yet.
No, you're used to him taking his nap at 10 o'clock
exactly.
and at 2 o'clock.
Yep.
And once you throw all these other things in there, it doesn't happen that way.
Yeah. And then he would be a little grumpy sometimes and, you know, those kind of things. So,
right. But you just kind of got to roll with those punches, and you just do whatever they need to do, because you have put them in a different context. I think a way to make it as easy as possible is whatever you can do to try to replicate that feeling of home for them.
We brought bed sheets.
Bring their bed
for
sheets.
For the pack and play.
Bring the stuffed animals or whatever that they need to
just
sleep with. Bring the toys that you need. If you have a routine of reading books, don't change that routine.
Yeah.
Of reading books before you go to bed. Whatever your normal routine is. I know you're on vacation and things oftentimes change, but whatever you can do. If they have a particular stroller or a particular thing that they like to sleep in. We brought his stroller that he always uses up here, which was kind of a mistake because it was a little too bulky for the buses. But also he slept better because he had a stroller.
Yes.
So I think
one of those, and not like one of the smaller scissor strollers. Like this one was more comfortable.
Right. It was still doable. It was not a huge, massive one of the tanks that people bring that are ridiculous and nobody can get them onto the buses.
Things.
They're tripping and they're dropping things and it's ugly. But it was still a little bit bigger than I would have liked. With all that being said, though, I think that the thing that we may have underestimated was the need for as much regularity in trying to maintain what the norm is on the trip as possible.
Yeah, especially because, you know, you want to fit all this stuff in, and that gets put on the back burner, you know, sometimes for that regularity. And I think it was just because he was so little. So as kids get older, they get more flexible. They do understand things, but
I
still,
think you still want to keep as much normalcy as you can.
Yeah.
because that's where a kid feels safe. That's where
Yeah.
they thrive, is in that safe.
They want to know what to expect. They
Right.
don't really like surprises, kids.
Right.
Like,
And they
they
like
like
that
routine.
consistency. So
Yeah.
try to maintain that consistency on your trip.
So,
Very difficult to do that, though, when you show up at an airport,
oh no.
as you should, a few hours before to get through TSA. Maybe you're traveling with maybe my parents who have never gone on an airplane before, so they're a little stressed and worried about the whole experience. You have an 11-month-old who's never been on an airplane before, so you don't know what kind of mess you're walking into here, whether, your parents may pull a nutty because it's their first trip on a plane, or whether he's going to pull a nutty because he's 20,000 feet in the air, or all of these factors, and can we get through TSA, or luggage going to get lost, all the normal things you would worry about, and then, well, bam, the worst possible thing to happen.
A 6-hour delay.
This happens, and you get stuck in an airport for 6+ hours before you ever get on the plane.
With nothing to do but wait.
And then you get on the plane, and then a dude falls and hits his head, and then refuses to seek medical attention.
Oh my gosh.
And then they stop him from going on the plane, and it holds everything up after you've had a 6-hour delay. And finally you arrive in your destination around like 10 at night. You get to the rental car place
Mark.
because you're not in Disney, and you're not taking Mears Connect or one of those
They
things.
don't need to hear
And
all
then
of this
The guy
chaos.
in front of you's card is not accepted, who is in the rental car line in front of you.
Yeah.
So now it's taking him 5 ever because he is trying to figure out what's
he
going
has a
on
lot
with his
of money,
credit
he
card.
said.
But his credit card is basically declining him, and I'm just like, I just want to get my family into this car and get to the hotel.
And then you can be like,
then
put a pretty bow on top.
You
and
drive 30 minutes to the hotel.
Stop.
And
You're
then when
doing
you
too
arrive
much.
there,
You're doing
then
too much.
there is an inept young man behind the front desk who may have been under the influence of something, because I don't think he was on this planet, and it is now midnight, and I have an 11-month-old and a bunch of tired people with me, and we can't even get into our 2 rooms that we have rented because this jamoke behind the desk is off in La La Land, and there's a dude waiting for a room in front of us who's singing, and
And then to put a cherry on top, Mark threw the stroller.
can you blame me?
No,
for
but I'm
throwing the
just saying.
stroller at
So
that point?
just because you go to Disney a lot and you travel a lot, maybe doesn't mean things don't go a little crazy. So that was a lot, yes, but that was our first 24 hours of this trip. So that kind of set us off,
The
But
trip did not
besides
start
that,
great, but by the time we got to Disney 2 days later, it was fantastic. And the
was
rest of the
amazing.
trip, really relatively, although we're talking about things that we did not expect, the trip went much smoother after the first 2 days.
Oh yeah, yeah. And those were kind of things outside of our control.
They were, but it's something worth
Yeah.
noting.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot control airports.
No, you can't.
So you have to...
Unfortunately.
We luckily planned ahead and had enough cereal and enough food. At that
Yeah,
time, he was
that
mainly
was-
eating cereal.
Yeah.
And we had enough formula
He
and
was
other
still
stuff.
breastfeeding, so
A little bit, yeah.
a little bit.
But he was
so
kind of
that-
doing a formula and
Yeah.
breast milk kind of mixture there. So luckily we had... But, like, by the end of the night, when we got to the hotel and finally got to our luggage with the rest of the stuff in it, like, we were up against the end of what we had
Yeah.
packed.
Yeah, we
and
were.
we thought that we were packing too much, and it ended up being just the right amount and squeaking in by the end of the night with the right amount of food. So, I don't think that there is a such thing as packing too much of
Yeah.
food for a kid
Yeah.
or snacks or anything like that in a situation when you're traveling, because you never know. You could get stuck in the airport for even longer than we got stuck there.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, they have stuff there, but not really for infants / toddlers who are just starting to eat these foods. Our son also has a really bad food allergy to 2 different things, so that also puts more stress on bringing our own food and stuff like that.
Speaking of things we weren't expecting to happen.
Go ahead. Oh yeah, I did not expect an allergic reaction to happen.
Yes, we learned that he was allergic to eggs on that trip, and that required a trip to the emergency room. So again,
Not in Disney World. This did not happen in Disney World. This happened before we got to Disney World. But yeah, things happen. And we were careful and we did things. He had that beforehand. Like he had eggs before that, so we didn't really think anything of it. And then that happened. So
I think a lot of times people go on vacation, right? And you're going to a place that's either touristy or whatever, especially a place like Disney where you feel very safe and insulated and protected from the outside world. But I think sometimes we go into trips like that with the idea that, nothing bad could happen while we're here.
yeah.
And that's just not the case, right? A lot of people go places like national parks or other places and like, oh, I'll just hike up this big mountain that, I think I can handle and I've never really hiked before, and then they get into trouble.
Yeah.
Not saying that you're going to hike up Mount Everest while you're at Disney World or anything like that, but I think it's important to remember that just because you are in Disney does not mean that you don't still have to take care of yourself and your family.
Right.
Don't eat like crap the whole time, if I may say crap. Don't eat bad the whole time and then expect to not feel bad.
Yeah.
Don't drink ridiculous amounts of alcohol and not expect to get sick from that. Don't not drink water in the Florida heat and not expect not to get dehydration
Yeah.
and pass out
Yeah.
from heat exhaustion because you're in Florida, right? Just because you're on vacation does not mean that you can stop thinking about your own health and your own safety.
Yeah.
So if you have heart problems, you probably should not ride a roller coaster at Disney, right?
Right.
People don't.
I know there's signs, but like people don't think like that. No, you're right.
But you should not forget that bad things could happen to you, and just because you're in Disney doesn't mean that could not happen to you. So use your brain. Use your common sense.
Yeah.
I know we all like to turn our brains off.
I think that was something I didn't expect either to have to, or maybe this is just a new parent thing. So if you're listening and you're also a new parent, or if you're a veteran parent, you might think it's kind of silly, or you can relate to when you were a new parent. Just the amount of thinking and planning that I had to do throughout the day, like the amount of decisions that had to be made throughout the day is exhausting. It already is exhausting at home, but even more so, I feel like when before we were parents, and Mark, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but we didn't really have to think that much. You just had to really worry about yourself. So this was a bit different. So I didn't expect to be like as stressed, I think, as I was the whole time, but not a really bad stress, but like,
you have to
you're
make sure
just,
that he's getting what he needs.
Yeah, you're just,
and that he's okay.
You're always checking in like periodically, and you're just, your mind's always kind of moving. So,
which it is whenever you're a parent all the time anyways.
Yeah.
But
more so because I think I'm used to just kind of shutting that part of my brain off.
Right. And you just can't do that.
Yeah, you just can't do that. Another thing that I wasn't expecting.
But good thing that we brought the epinephrine is the moral of the story.
Yeah,
right?
good.
Like make sure if you have an allergy, bring your EpiPen.
Yeah.
Bring the medications that you need. If you have high blood pressure, bring your blood pressure meds. Bring all the stuff that you need.
I mean, Disney is really good at having those things, and there's a fire station nearby to help you with all of that stuff. But yeah, just make sure you're still focused on that things could happen, and that you're just prepared if they do, because they could, and they did when we went there. So just be prepared. A good thing that I wasn't expecting for this trip, I wasn't expecting it to go well, but was actually waiting in the lines with him. Now, granted, we didn't wait in a lot of very, very long lines. I would say the longest would probably be what, like 30 minutes?
Maybe if that.
I definitely thought standing still, on the rides that maybe there's not as much to look at. Spaceship Earth is coming to mind for me because there's really not a lot out in that queue. And you're outside. Even Mickey and Minnie's, like that was a little longer of one that we waited in, and I was surprised, a nice unexpected surprise that our child did very well. But with that being said, I definitely think having either the Go Play app for Disney or other things that you could think would entertain your kids in lines that maybe aren't as interactive as some of the other ones, do that.
Sure, but I think that this is one to Disney's credit, right? One of their amazing skills is that most cues, as they like to call them, not lines, but cues, are set up in a way that capture young people's attention and keep them occupied without needing external things.
Yeah.
I think that that's incredibly difficult to do in a modern world where so much of our life is overstimulation.
Yeah.
With everything, constantly, and immediate gratification with everything, constantly. But they do a very good job of keeping kids' attentions. And I was, too. This is a great one. I was pleasantly surprised by how well he handled standing in lines and, like, did not completely pull a nutty or anything.
That's what I mean. Like, a lot of the standing still I was worried about because he is so young that, like, interactive things, you know, we can't really go. But when you're kind of stuck and you're not moving, I think movement was fine. You know, walking somewhere, he was looking at things. But when the line was at, like, a standstill for a moment or two or three.
Or 10.
Or 10. Depending. We had a lot of people with us. That was nice to kind of trade him off from holding him and stuff because you can't bring the strollers with you past certain points. But yeah, I was expecting that to be a little harder. And it wasn't as hard. But, you know, every kid is different. So just be prepared for that, I guess.
Something else that I was pretty pleasantly surprised with was how much we actually got to do.
I was thinking that too. Like, how many rides he actually got to do and, like, we got to do as well.
Right.
Having
I really did not think that on the 10-day trip that we were there that we were going to be able to see and do as much as we actually did. I thought that it was going to be a lot of hotel time.
Yeah.
And a lot more like, oh, we're just going to go to the pool because that's all that he can handle right now.
Yeah.
But he did very well.
And I think a lot of kids adapt very well. They are very good at adapting, kids in general.
But keep the consistency as much as you can, and then I think that they can adapt to things better.
That's the key. You know, bringing like their if you can get snacks and stuff from home or buy the same things that you would at home, keep that a little, like he pretty much had, but because of his food allergy, we gave him everything. He didn't eat anything, you know, that we didn't buy for him ahead of time. So he was getting all the same things the same. His formula was the same, or, you know, breastfeeding. Like, we tried to keep the naps the same. All of that kind of stuff. And in the time of which, you know, it shifted a little bit. Sometimes we were out late, but we pretty much had somewhat early nights.
Yeah.
Most of the time. So we did try to keep it as close to.
And don't push.
Yeah.
Like, take what you get and don't try to do that extra thing. Because whenever we tried to do that extra thing.
We did try.
It always blew up in our face. And by blew up in our face, I mean led to crying.
Yeah.
And displeasure.
And I think another thing that I wasn't expecting was the feeling of being left out.
FOMO.
Yeah. Yeah, really bad FOMO. And I think this is just a new parent thing, but
yeah, I think it's for all parents.
Yeah, you think?
Yeah.
It's just like,
up to a certain age.
I have to go back to the hotel now because I'm going to, because we love him and he's had enough and it's time for bed. But it's like, unfortunately for us, because we still want to go out and ride all the rides, you know.
There was one morning at Hollywood Studios where he had an okay morning. It was not his best morning, but he was having an okay time. And we thought that, you know, hey, he can stay with Grammy and Papa, and he can take a nap because he was getting ready for a nap, and maybe they could walk him around. He was getting ready to fall asleep. And we, with your parents and your sister, could ride Rock and Roller Coaster real quick just do it while he was kind of falling asleep napping, and then we would all go back to the hotel anyways. So it was time to go back for lunch, and we were like, okay, great, he's going to stay, he's going to fall asleep with Grandma and Papa. They're not going on Rock and Roller Coaster anyways. We're going to bang this out, and then we'll all go back to the hotel. He lost it.
We tried to leave, and that was the thing. He saw us walking away, and he was like...
He started crying. He was not happy.
Mm-mm.
I was like, okay, fine, I'll just stay with him. You go and ride the ride. We'll be fine. And he wanted no one but Mama.
Mm-hmm.
And Mama really wanted to ride Rock and Roller Coaster. And Mama did not ride Rock and Roller Coaster. Mama came back to the hotel.
Mama did not ride Rock and Roller Coaster.
Mama came back to the hotel with Grammy, Papa, Dad, and Baby.
And you know, it was funny riding the boat back to the beach club where we were staying, and it was just one of those like you almost feel guilty about it, and I think it's just the mom guilt because like you don't want to feel like, oh, I don't want to go back right now. I just wish I could be doing the thing that I wanted to do. But then like the mom guilt hits you, and then you're like, oh my God. But he was fine. He wanted me, and I am happy that I am his safe space. But at the same time, you know,
and there will come a day when
can be
he runs on the Rock and Roller Coaster and doesn't even look back at you or care.
I know.
There,
And so I just have to take in all these little moments, right?
That's right.
Just take it in while they're little now, and that they really just want you. Mm-hmm. So, but yeah. I think another thing I wasn't really expecting to be harder, which I think it's just because this is the first time that we've done a longer mixed family trip, was just, I felt like I had to, like, I was trying to, like, keep people happy. Mm-hmm. And maybe this is just something that's trending when my family goes, because I feel like it is.
That is true.
This is trending. And I think it's because, like, they're not, like, they're Disney people, but they're not like us. So maybe it's just because I'm trying to make everything wonderful and magical and see how great this is. See how great this is. When sometimes and it's not that they're not like impressed by everything and they don't like going, like they do. That's just not they're just not as enthusiastic about it, you know?
Obviously, like, we went for our son, your family went for our son, my family went for our son, so
yeah. If he was happy, then everybody else was happy.
Exactly.
He was like a big buffer between everybody. So as long as he was happy they got to see him smile and do things, everyone was happy.
Don't let your worry that other people aren't having a good time affect the time that you're having.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens next time.
So those are just some of the things that we were not expecting on this trip. But I guess if there is a moral to this episode, it is to expect the unexpected. And just remember that you are on vacation, and although things may not go exactly as you were planning, and things happen that kind of mess up what your plans may be or alter what you're doing, especially if you have young children, take it all in stride and remember that you're all there to have fun together as a family, and don't let a few things not going the way that you wanted them to go ruin a trip for you.
Yeah, I definitely think just keeping a positive attitude and trying to keep that routine, and just knowing that things go wrong sometimes, or things don't go exactly the way you have planned things. But I think that some of the cooler moments, or, you know, more magical moments happen when the unexpected things happen. So just roll with it. Something good will come out of it. Maybe something even better. You never know.
It's true.
Yeah. Like that bus ride we got.
That's right. That was unexpected.
That's
a good unexpected one.
Yeah. We were walking to the bus, and there was a guy with a very big van/bus, and he was like, "Hey, where are you going?"
He was a Disney employee.
Oh,
this
yes.
was not a stranger.
I'm sorry.
He was not getting a strange white van or anything like that. This was not a...
Yes, I'm sorry. It was like a Disney tour van.
It was not a kidnapping situation.
And he asked us where we're going, and, you know,
hey guys,
cast members are always nice,
going?
So they ask, and...
You want some candy?
Stop.
Come in my white pickup truck.
Oh my God. Stop.
Okay.
Anyway, so cast members are just usually nice anyway, so we were telling him, and he was like, "Oh, do you guys want to ride?" And we were like, "Wait, seriously?" like completely unexpected. So we got a nice little private ride all the way to the gate of Animal Kingdom.
He did. Dropped us right off at the gate.
Right off. Right there. Bada bing, bada boom. There we were. So
that was pretty incredible.
Unexpected. So
didn't have to pay a single penny.
Nope. So things can just happen. Good, the bad, and the ugly. It can happen. Just roll with it, though. And you'll sure to have a magical time still, or look back at it and maybe laugh someday.
Can't believe that we forgot about that private ride until the very end.
I know.
It's one of the coolest things that happened, and we forgot about it almost. I think so. That was pretty awesome.
I mean, it was cool.
Anyways, as always, folks, follow us on our social media accounts. You can send us an email also at startswithawishthought.podcast. If you did not like my if you don't like my dad jokes, let me know. Send us an email. It starts with a wish.
Tell them to stop doing it.
.podcast@gmail.com. And remember, folks, it all starts with a wish. We'll see you real soon.
Bye.